Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Skin Talk Tuesday podcast. Hi, Nick.
Hi.
How are you?
I got to tell you, I am starting to love doing this. I just
oh my
got on the
gosh.
couch with, you know how I was a little resistant when we first started doing this?
Yep. Like the recording part or the podcast in general?
Just the podcast in general and the recording and definitely being on screen and recording. But I'm really looking forward to making more and more of these because I feel like I'm starting to get feedback from the PT fam that they're loving it and getting so much. And I love our conversations too.
No, I know. We're back in the studio and it just feels really good. I feel like we're, even on my way here, I just knew where to go. I feel very comfortable. Like everybody that we worked with has just been amazing. So this is just so fun. I do enjoy it too. I feel like I've been listening back to the recordings that we've done, to do the edits and get the clips and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait for people to hear this.
I listen to our podcast while I'm making Nushi's lunch.
Yeah.
And even though I had the conversation with you, I find myself giggling at things that we said.
All the time.
Or, when we start to talk, when you ask really important questions and we put that information out there that I know is going to be helpful, I just feel good. I'm like, we are doing good things.
No, I know. Well, this is going to be a good one. I'm really excited. We're finally going to talk about all things Spironolactone, Accutane, Tretinoin, different topicals and things that are often prescribed with acne treatments. I feel like we've been waiting for this topic to do in a studio because it definitely, needs its own moment.
Mm-hmm. We're talking about the big guns, right?
Right.
What is mainstream acne healing?
Right.
And why we're kind of swimming upstream and against that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very excited to have this conversation. I have a lot to say, as you know.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, before we get into it, how are you? How have you been? What's up?
I'm good. I was on the way in here, I was, doing emails off to my daughter's school and there's just a whole lot of stuff going on at the moment. I'm coming to the end of my conversion classes, so I'm starting to plan. I know.
That's crazy. I remember when you first were starting doing it in everything.
And now we're talking about the actual, the conversion will happen soon and we're planning our trip to Israel. So it's kind of like I just have 4 or 5 things juggling. Our project with our skincare project that is really rolling out faster. I just feel like I have multiple hats, as I'm sure you do too. But it all feels great.
I love it. I love it. Well, I tried a new concealer recently that I thought that I would share with the class. Well, you've been harping me about my makeup and you finally were like, just try the mineral concealer, like the mineral powder, whatever. And I've been umming and ahhing about it because I just feel like it's not good. I just have a preconceived notion.
I've heard people worry about that.
Yeah. So then you finally were like, put it on the business card. I'll pay for it. And I was like,
bribe.
Well,
put it on the business card.
If you're saying that, then fine, I'll go ahead and try it. I'll be a guinea pig. And you know what? It's not amazing, but I'm definitely pleasantly surprised. And maybe it's because I had such low expectations that now it's it's a lot better than I thought it was, but it was just really funny because I know that you've been yelling at me about it.
The reason the reason why. The reason can sometimes be that when you get to the end of your acne healing journey and you're close but you're still getting those niggly little things, it'll be one thing that you haven't tweaked.
No, I know.
And I have these experiences with a lot of my clients where I'll harp on about whatever it is that they're still doing that they swear is okay, and we'll shift it and they get clear, and then it's I told you so moment that I don't even really want to have with them.
Yeah.
But it makes such a big difference.
It's so true.
Here's the thing. Makeup is a little bit like anything else in the acne healing toolkit. In the height of inflammation, you have to be super strict. Once you get into maintenance and get clear and the inflammation goes down, your skin gets stronger, less reactive. You can maybe reintroduce things that were problematic at the height of your inflammation that you'll have no issue with a year from now.
Yeah.
So it's just in the beginning, be as strict as you can to give your skin the chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I'm glad you did it. I'm very proud of you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
Because I know what you're like with your makeup.
Well, it's so difficult because there's a lot of brands out there, and there's a lot that say, especially concealer has been my one thing. Because I feel like, especially as you get more clear, it's like you really only have a few blemishes. So it's not like you want to wear a full foundation routine. So I have been trying to find a fully acne safe concealer, and it's just, I thought I found one that was really good and it had tocopherol in it, and that one is always iffy. You know, it depends on where it's derived and everything. So I just wanted to be like, you know what, I'm taking this out. You know, it's not my makeup because I know it's this.
Well,
or I know I'm using everything right.
Non-comedogenic is not a regulated term.
Right.
And I'm not saying that brands are outrightly lying to you, but there's such a spectrum of information.
Yeah.
There's the old-fashioned information about what is good and not good for acne prone skin, and you know, of late there's people like myself that have a more specialized, advanced understanding of what acne is, and our standards are higher. And I think it's just for people like you and me, we're highly acne prone, sensitive. Like we need to take that extra step,
right?
You know,
just,
people that
especially
are just
in this
acne
time
prone,
right now,
maybe okay, but you know, there are just certain people that need to be a lot more diligent in the beginning anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's, you know,
good for you.
Comedogenicy is a whole topic for another time, but I thought I would update the class and let everybody know that I am in this trial phase of a new concealer, because I want, you know,
I get DMs all the time about like, what does Mary think about
like
this?
what are we using? And I'm really
makeup?
trying to get down to the bottom. So I'll let you guys know how I get on with it, but that's just been like the new, I guess, skincare thing that I've been doing this week that I was kind of excited about and excited to share with people.
It's like just all of these little things, you chip away at it, and slowly
figure out
the balance comes, you know.
Right. Yeah, you figure out like what's good for you.
And you're doing all of this in the middle of training for a marathon.
I know. Well, it's on Saturday.
You were struggling like anything with the training and your skin, and
now it's good. Yeah. Well, I say that we just get into it because honestly, I'm just ready to continue our conversation. We kind of talked about it a little bit last week with Diana, about a little bit with spironolactone, a little Accutane. I know we touched on some antibiotics there, but I thought I would talk to you directly and just get your real take, especially when it relates to the Pacific Touch method for healing acne. So let's get into it.
Okay. What do you want to know?
Okay. So let's start with spironolactone, because again, we talked about it a little bit last week. What is it from an esthetician point of view, and why do we not believe in using it under the Pacific Touch method?
So spironolactone is kind of it's the flavor of the month of acne healing suppressants. And when I say suppressant, I mean that it's not something that's dealing with the root cause of why a person is struggling. It's just taking a symptom and blocking it. So spironolactone blocks androgen, which is our male hormone that's responsible for like oil production. When it gets elevated, you do have more inflammation, and a lot of adult acne there is a hormonal component, some more than others. And a long time ago, they found out like spironolactone was not even formulated for acne. It's a diuretic, and it helps with like blood pressure and things like that. But they did find out indirectly that it did help some people with hormonal acne at that time. And I remember, because the funny thing is that even though I've been an acne specialist for 16 years, like I had acne from 12 and I'm 52 now. So I remember my first visit at 12, and everything that we're going to talk about today, bar Spiro, is something that I've been on multiple times. You know, it worked until it didn't.
Yeah, because Spiro is a relatively new discovery. New. Yeah. But I even remember when I was going through it, and a random dermatologist, I guess, was just like, there's this new drug actually that's helpful. And I remember at the time being like, finally, you know, like something, like some answer.
Exactly.
And it didn't work.
The thing is, it hit at the right time, meaning Accutane was really kind of on the outs. A lot of people, you know, it was getting a lot of bad press with like people were reporting feeling depression and a lot of like harsh symptoms. And so people were moving more away from that. Spiro comes in, saves the day, is this magical drug that's helping people. And I think, to be honest, a lot of acne prone people were just relieved, like it's not as harsh and scary as Accutane. And the symptoms are more subtle, like the side effects are more subtle and palatable. And, you know, we've always been quick fixes are glamorized in life.
Right.
You know, and it's human nature, myself included. When you're going through something, we're not wired to want to go the painful route or to do the hard thing.
Well, but I also think with medicine too, it's like when you go to the doctor for, if you have like a thyroid problem, or you know, you go to the doctor for some sort of other illness and they give you some sort of medicine to help with that.
Yep.
It's similar in the sense with acne. You're going to the doctor, especially if you aren't super well versed in the world of acne like we are, and you get prescribed and you think that this is like normal. Like this is the medication that's going to help with my acne. At least that's how I felt. Because it's like,
of course,
you know, you're just getting a medicine to help.
You're also beaten down by it, because a lot of us, like, you start with the teenage acne. You know, many people get through that and go on and are clear in their adult life. There's a chunk of us that aren't. And by the time you get into your 20s, like through college, if you've still been battling it, into the workforce, you're dating, you're trying to kickstart a career, it is soul crushing to be constantly dealing with acne. And so when you go to these specialists, you save up the money, you know, wait list, whatever, you I don't know if you did this, but I used to always do this, is I would imagine that it would be this revelation. They were going to ask me lots of questions and give me guidance. I would go in, swear to God, sometimes it would be less than 10 minutes.
All the time, every single one.
And then just prescription, you know, and it would be round and round. But yeah, so Spiro came in when Accutane was kind of falling out of favor. And you jump on it because it's something that you're told is going to help you. And, you know, a lot of the times with these prescriptions, because, you know, anyone that's listening to this podcast, I can almost bet, you know, a year's salary, you didn't have a hormonal test to test if your androgens were high before you were put on Spiro. So it's a guess whether or not it's going to work. It's not a sure thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, were you ever tested for hormones or anything?
No, never tested. It really is, they just put you on some sort of dose, and I didn't learn until recently that it's kind of a guess.
Yeah, and
but then sometimes it's not even hormone related, your acne. It's
exactly
like gut related or whatever, like we learned last week with Diana.
So you spend years and years of your life on something that's kind of, or it's not so much that it doesn't work wholly, it can work a little bit, enough to kind of keep you on it, but it doesn't fully keep you clear. Yeah. But it's certainly not getting to the root cause, you know, so, but that's, I think Spiro is attractive because it's easy.
Right.
It's fast.
It's an answer.
And you don't have to, with Accutane, you've got the dry, flaky skin, the crazy, you know, like other...
crazy. We'll get into it.
That later. Yeah. So Spiro's a little... And it also helps, because here's the thing about androgen-driven acne. If you do have androgen-driven acne, which is what Spiro helps, 9 times out of 10, you're dealing with other unpleasant symptoms like excessive facial hair. You can have male pattern balding, like thinning in the front of your hair. So that drug is going to help that too. You know, because if you're trying to deal with excessive, if you don't like the facial hair and you're trying to remove it and you're acne prone, a lot of the hair removal will be made, like the dermaplaning, the shaving, the waxing, the tweezing will be making you break out too. So you're in hell. You're in this circular hell of dealing with everything.
Such a cycle, yeah.
So someone comes to you and says, you can just take this pill and it'll be done. Why wouldn't you?
Right. Well, how does spironolactone affect the skin barrier, like when somebody's on it? Or have you seen that it has any effect on the barrier?
It's subtle.
Okay.
So what it does, the effect that it has is because it deals with lowering your androgens. Androgen is responsible for your oil production. Not as bad as Accutane, but it can make you slightly drier. When you're dry, like ironically, oil is actually, like our skin needs the right balance of oil and water. Water is the hydration that gives us the glow, plumps up our skin. Oil is anti-inflammatory in the right level, very much like diet. You know how they say like your healthy oils and all of that sort of thing. So you need the right balance, but it's also the protection. If you don't have enough oil in your skin, you're going to start getting the redness, the rashes, the perioral. I mean, that's the funny thing. You'll see a lot of people that are on harsh topicals or medication that's taking away the oil that's stopping the pimples. But then after a while, they'll start getting rosacea, eczema, perioral.
I mean, that's like, again, a whole other rabbit hole to go down.
The fact that they're on things that are taking their protective barrier right down.
Whoa, yeah.
Leaving their microbiome vulnerable. So that, in that way, spironolactone is a bit of an issue. Here's the hot take.
Tell
if
us.
you're going to be, I don't like suppressants purely because I don't consider them to be true skin freedom. They're only dealing with a symptom. Often the moment you go off it, you're going to have a relapse. So what's the point? And so, but if you were to go on a suppressant, spironolactone is one of the more gentle ones on the barrier. But indirectly, I don't love it because it's not dealing with the problem.
Right, yeah.
And a lot of people that have androgen dominance, you know, there's other drivers that are making that happen. Like, that's what I want people to want to know. Like, or I wish that the medical community could be more interested in healing people rather than just like covering symptoms.
Yeah.
Like, why are your androgens elevated? Like, those are the conversations I have in the treatment room, right? You're a healthy young woman. You're in a happy relationship. Like, why are...
Well, why could be? Like, what have you seen have been a few examples?
Stress is a huge driver.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm seeing more and more, and I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but I think it's because it's going to become more and more obvious, is that it's not the traditional stress really that's putting a lot of people into chronic adult acne. It's the hectic lifestyles. Like, we're on our phones all the time. We're just on. Always on, you know, influx of work and social life and go, and even exercise. Exercise now is a lot of high intensity and, you know, like, it's not a coincidence that a huge part of our community is in the finance industry, or, you know, I don't know how many times I'm in facials with my clients and, you know, they'll be checking their phone because their boss just, you know, emailed them and they have to take this. And it's just that low-grade chronic stress that's always humming. That's an issue.
Right.
Right.
And as acne-prone people, our response to that kind of inflammation is acne.
Yeah.
Or to show up on our skin.
And I also think that, you know, a lot of topicals and medications are kind of handed out like candy, because that's the other problem is I very rarely meet someone that's just on Spiro. They're also on Accutane, you know, then they have Tret, and they're trying a foaming wash, and they're on P50.
Oh my gosh, that
and so
barrier.
It's just exactly.
Right.
So it's never one thing, both ways. It's like the solution is more than one thing, but also often the sort of the harsh relationship that we have with our skin is layered, you know, and it's not dealing with that. So that's kind of why we push. It's not judgment. Like, we'll still work with people that are on suppressants, but I think the mama bear in me, I want to help people find out why they're struggling.
You want to get down to the bottom.
We can put the support.
Right.
Because that's when it becomes, like I always say to you, I am my happiest when clients drop off my list, because they're clear, maintained. They're virtually estheticians by the time they finish working for a couple of years. And I know they're okay, you know, and their skin is completely maintained. And it's like, I would prefer to put extra work into that rather than the opposite, which is meeting people that have been on, you know, like Spiro for years, the birth control pill for 15, 20 years, doxycycline, like all of these different things for years and years and years. And a lot of them are petrified to come off. But the thing is like, you either get to a point in your life where you just want to come off, like you're tired of the side effects, you're worried about what the long term, because that's the thing. the short-term fix is glamorous, but the long-term effects of things are not
It's a
so
long
glamorous
road.
when you get a certain age, right?
Right.
You know, or if you are wanting to have a family, a lot of these things you can't use. So it's like you're coming
I think
off
that's a huge, like most of
involuntarily.
our client base too is a lot of women who have gone through this and are now dealing with the repercussions from being on these drugs for what you were saying, like 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Again, no judgment, because it's totally understandable to, you know, want to take a medication to just help and alleviate and or clear if that happens. But it's really at that point, especially like late 20s, 30s, where you're like, at least that's what we see in our clients of people who just want to be off it for, you know, the rest of their lives or for starting a family purposes.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. It's like if you imagine that acne or any inflammatory condition, but specifically acne for this conversation is fire, right?
That's what you always say.
Yeah, because it's an easy, you know, it's when I say that, it's like it's easy to explain to someone, like, think of all the ways you can put the fire out.
Sure.
Like stress is fire. You know, your stressful job is fire. Your intense exercise is fire. Your inflammatory foods in your diet is fire. You know, your inflammatory products are fire. Like things that make you heated up and burning and flaking, that's fiery, you know? And then people can start going, oh. But it's like, think of suppressants as, instead of like, the fire is a message, right? It's not the problem. Acne is not the problem. Suppressants are, instead of like turning the fire alarm off, you're not putting out the fire.
Right.
You're just silencing the fire.
Yeah. You're like waving the rag in front of the thing. Yeah.
And it's still all there. Like that's
Right.
the thing too, is that all of these things may work while you're on them, but when you relapse, it's not because the medication didn't work, it's because you didn't deal with the problem.
So true. Well, if spironolactone helps reduce sebum production, what are some alternative ways that we would suggest to monitor this problem, other than going on the drug? Like, what is the PT recommendation?
So the first thing that you want to do is help your client work out, like, why are you having elevated oil production in the first place?
Sure. Okay.
Stress is a big one, you know, but what's behind, like, what can you do in those areas to alleviate that stress, you know? Or is it a hormonal imbalance? But what's behind the hormonal imbalance?
Well, with the hormonal imbalance, do you see, even if it's like being on birth control or spironolactone, do you see that that's why like hormones are like totally out of whack because they've been taking something like that changes your hormones? Or is it just like naturally all of a sudden some people just like have elevated androgens or like are not ovulating or whatever?
So I think there's like a small percentage where it is just a genetic card that a person has been, and there's actually certain cultures where females, you know, in the population have higher levels of androgens. Androgens are your fight, your emotion. So think
it's like testosterone, no?
Yeah, it is. It's testosterone. And then there's more acne-causing androgens. Like there's DHT, which is like 7 or 9 times more acne-causing than testosterone. But cortisol, stress, there's the androgen that tweaks. There's an androgen there that gets tweaked, which can result in acne. So it's like, but here, when I look at it, when I think about my own journey, and definitely a lot of the people that come to us, you go on the pill kind of around the time you're in college. You're stressed out. You've got a hectic lifestyle. You're not necessarily eating well. You're not sleeping a lot. You're not looking after yourself. So your body is high androgens. You go on the pill, you know, that.
And I feel like for some, like your body is still, you know, fluctuating. Yeah, right.
Or if you're someone who's heavily into intense exercise in college and you're doing a lot of sport and all of that sort of thing, your testosterone will be is tweaked.
Yeah.
Right? So, the immediate reach is for the artificial things to bring it all down, rather than teaching people, okay, if you're going to have this, like I will do this. I mean, I did this with you. It's like you take the person's lifestyle and what they want to be and put in the supports that you need. Okay, you know what? You can't be running 7 days a week.
Right.
Or, you know, on the days you run, you need to make sure that you are doing, you know, red light LED and breath work and put in some yoga and all of that sort of thing, or making sure that people are managing their blood sugar. That's huge. Anybody that's on Spiro, you know, if I were to, my immediate things that I want to put in that are the PT method is stress reduction, like how kind are you to your body in general and your skin for sure. And also, you know, I mean, you know, we have ingredients that can topically help block the DHT, right? But then you make sure that they're also like managing their blood sugar. Like people that are in that high stress situation and are having androgen breakouts shouldn't be doing intermittent fasting. They need to be
no
like,
coffee on an empty stomach.
all of that stuff, you know.
You mentioned previously about the DHT reducing ingredients in products. What can you dive into that a little more?
So there are some ingredients that will topically block the DH receptors on our face, which just happen to be here, which is why everybody, you know, breaks out in that area more if it's elevated androgens, because there's just more receptors there. So there's things like cosmeceutical, like green tea extract, saw palmetto. We have it in our, you know, the plant harmonizing serum, but also our eruption emulsion, skin nectar. We just have ingredients that basically start to put out that fire.
Right.
You know, topically. But then because I always have to remind
like
people
you can go at it from two angles, like
you have
internally
to, but
and
that's actually
topically.
really important.
Yep.
Like you actually have to, because I would go as far as to say that I don't want people to rely on just our products, because that's not the PT method.
Sure. Yeah.
Products are a part of it, but I think the magic happens when people understand that this is multifactorial. You need to be dealing with your mindset, your environment, your lifestyle habits, you know, or the internal stuff, but don't forget the day-to-day things. You know, the brushing. There's so many things that it's not just, oh, your androgens are elevated. That is the problem. It's like there's 50 more questions I want to ask you.
Right. Yeah. Well, we've talked before and we've had a podcast about this on rebound acne. When it comes to Spiro specifically, and if somebody's trying to come off of it, what is that rebound acne timeline like? Is it similar to the birth control?
Yeah.
How long can someone expect
It's
you know, that
very
rebound
similar.
to take? It is. Okay.
Similar
Probably because
in
they're
this-
both like hormone
blockers.
driven. Yeah. Okay.
And it takes a long time. Like I even remember, even in natural situations, like when I had Noosh, I would say it took a good 2 years for me to feel more hormonally balanced and repaired.
Yeah.
So you have to give yourself a decent amount of time. But it's the same in the sense that when you first go off Spiro, you're okay for a while, and at 3, 4, 5 months in, sometimes since 6 month mark, it feels like it's out of the blue.
Yeah.
You do, if you are someone that gets a lot of other symptoms like the hair growth, on the excessive hair growth on the face, and sometimes like chest, hands, you'll notice it starting to come back, hair falling out, the hair thinning, and in the front, more blackheads, hair feels oilier, face feels oilier, and then all of a sudden you'll get that rebound
You'll
acne
get
that
the-
very much looks like the post-pill acne.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. I mean, but we have tools in our toolkit to go through this,
We do.
especially, and we talked about it a lot in our rebound acne episode. So if you haven't listened to that, please go ahead, because we dive even deeper into it. But, you know, there's things that you can do before, during, and after to really combat, you know, calm down, downplay.
I even think, you know, that's why I am fine with people coming into Pacific Touch on these suppressants and waiting until they feel mentally ready to go off, because we can do so many things to start the healing process and slowly wean people off the dependency, or wean the body off, because that's the other thing too, is that a suppressant is not just blocking whatever it is. it's also, you know, whatever the imbalance is still out of whack. Like if you're not doing any work to actually get what is unbalanced balanced, then you're in a world of trouble when you go off the suppressant. But because we do so much work and we are, you know, like my androgen-driven clients that are on Spiro are on things to help so that when they come off, it's not as horrendous. And there's a lot of education. You know, it's all that detective work. It's why it always makes me laugh. I remember years ago I got a negative review because a woman had come to have a facial with me, and she put in the review that I talk too much. And I'm like, if you know Pacific Touch and the amount of value that we place on education, like I want to know everything.
I was going to say, even just like wanting to know all of the information, being a detective, like being a little nosy, not a lot of nosy. Lot. Yeah. Just so that you can like really get down to the nitty gritty.
So many things. Cause sometimes you can get caught. Like I will see that a person is on a decent routine and I'm like, why are they struggling so much? Like I can't work. And then I'll have them, like my favorite thing to do in a facial is to be like, okay, let's start from the beginning. You wake up in the morning, what do you do? And they'll go through their day. And then it'll start to unfold. It'll be the person's either, you know, they've got their routine is a little out of whack. They don't know how to use the products properly. Like I get into the nitty gritty. Or the coffee on the empty tummy, going to work out, you know, without eating, like all of these little things come up in conversation. But it's all that stuff that can help a person when they want to heal without suppressants. You know, and the bright side is not only do you get clear skin, but often you're helping your health because the messaging is health related.
Right.
Your body is telling you that it's too stressed.
Something's up.
When you're young and strong, it's
we could say this
subtle.
in every episode, but it's like, be grateful for the messages your skin is sending you.
Seriously.
It's so true. Yeah.
You know, and you and I are sitting here like, I'm the age that I am and I'm feeling the decisions that I made. You know, when you're young, genetics kind of can block things out for a little while. So, you know, everything that you do, all the choices that you make are the investment for your future sometimes. So you don't even notice at the time just how much of an impact something has.
I mean, youth is wasted on the young, as they say. Yeah. Well, I've been noticing, and I know that you have too, we've had many conversations about this, that Spironolactone specifically has just been becoming super mainstream for Gen Z on TikTok and Instagram. Like I always see it in the suggestion thing on TikTok. What are your thoughts on that? Like where, especially for when we're thinking of people younger than me, like, you know, late teens, 20s.
Gen Z is being sold the age-old lie. Acne...
Say it, girl.
Okay, so Gen Z is being sold the age-old lie that I was told 40 years ago, that acne is the problem, that your skin is bad, here's a pill or here's the easy thing to get rid of it. Nothing has changed, and that's the sad thing.
Yeah.
It's really, I mean, my kid is Gen Alpha.
It'll be the same messaging, different wording. I mean,
yeah. I mean, the movement is getting bigger. Like when I think about, you know, what in my parents' day, the medical community, like even just thinking about suppressants in general, you were given antibiotics at the drop of a hat. You know, now we know a little bit more. Like my kid is 10 and I'm not, you know, like I'm not anti-medication. Like I think that human beings were given a brain for a reason. I marvel at medicine. I think it's absolutely necessary. I'm super grateful to live in a country where, you know, we have access to all of this stuff, but a lot of the time it's overused and oversold, big promises. And I think the saddest thing for me is if we continue to not listen to what our body is trying to tell us when certain things are happening.
Yep.
You know, and what I hope for Gen Z is, because I know that this is your generation and I'm proud of all of you for being like this, is that you ask more questions. I want people to demand more. Like
Self-advocating.
yeah.
Yep.
Like if you are told that you need spironolactone,
I'm not even in Gen Z, by the way.
Are you not?
Well, I'm like,
I think you. I always call you Gen Z.
I am. I'm like on the cusp. So
Okay.
I'm a cusp
You're a cuspy.
kid. Yeah.
You're a swirly.
Oh yeah.
So, so if you get told, say, that you need spironolactone, ask why. Mm-hmm. Do you know what your hormone levels are? You know, do you really think it is hormonal? And like I said earlier, most adult acne, especially the cystic acne that is in this area, has a hormonal component, but it's not the big picture.
Yep.
But I also think the difference between your generation and my generation is that things can catch fire. Fire again, this analogy keeps coming through because of social media.
Yep.
You know, but it's no different from, in my day, it was Accutane. Accutane was the wonder drug.
Yep.
The wonder drug.
I mean, that's a good segue
yeah.
into Accutane. I mean, that is always the one that people are like, I've tried this, and I had to do Accutane. Or like in my experience, it was, I've tried everything, but I draw the line at Accutane.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. What is it, and why is it commonly used to treat acne?
I want to say one thing before we jump into this.
Oh, go ahead.
In 16 years, I've never met anyone who's tried everything.
What do you mean?
I mean that people that think they've tried everything can go on Accutane, haven't tried everything.
Yep. Because then
And
they find us.
Exactly.
Right.
In fact, if anything, there's a shit ton of things they haven't tried.
And it's all like basic things too. A lot of it is basic.
Infuriatingly basic.
Right. I mean, we talked about it last week too. With
I get
like
upset about what people are not told.
Yep.
When they're acne prone, because I almost think it's a bit of a sham. Like you just go through these years and years of being on all these things that just have unpleasant side effects. You're rolling the dice with some of the long-term things that can happen. You know, we'll talk about Accutane. And then at the end of it, when it all hasn't worked, you're told there's nothing else for you. I mean, I don't know how many
other
clients,
than like, let's do a second round.
yeah,
You know,
I have so many clients that come to me and say, the reason they come to Pacific Touch often is because they've been told by their dermatologist that there's nothing left to try and that they can only go on Accutane.
What is the common thing that people say? I've tried everything, whatever. What is the common thing that they haven't tried?
They've only tried suppressants.
Okay. So it's only
Most
like
of the
prescriptions
time.
and everything.
Do you know
Yep.
how many? I would say 85% of the people that come to Pacific Touch that say they've tried everything are on a whole lot of pore cloggers in their skincare. Their basic skincare routine is not dealing with the issue.
Yeah.
And even if they are, like I will get those clients that are on like Vanny cream. Like it's not it's not overly, it's acne, it's not pore clogging necessarily, but it's not helping.
It's not moving.
It's not doing anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And they don't know that they can be drinking spearmint tea to help with androgens, and they're not doing any sort of stress relief in their day-to-day. They don't understand how to support their skin while they're working out with sweat management. It can be something as simple as they're using the towels at the gym on their faces.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? And then you get prescribed a drug. Well, let's get into Accutane. So what is it?
So Accutane is basically, it's a synthetic form, a very strong form of vitamin A that basically shuts down your oil glands.
Okay.
And its whole idea is based on a very, very old-fashioned idea that acne is an oil problem and a bacteria problem. So if you take out, which is why everything is drying, right? Because if you take oil out of the equation, a person can't break out. So what it basically does is it shrinks your oil glands, but it dries out everything else. I am an expert on Accutane because I was on it multiple times. If I close my eyes, I can still remember how dry everything is. And I really do think that I suffer from things today. Like I have a skin that is permanently changed
Yeah.
from Accutane.
Well, what does
or
it-
the inside, because it can, the inside of your nose, it dries out everything. Your
So that's really what
eyes,
it's doing to the skin barrier, is just like taking out all of the oil.
all of the goodness, all of the protection, all of the, it's suffocating the acne, but the damage that it's doing at the same time. Like when I was in the height, I mean, in my day, Accutane was the gold standard. It was the cure, which was such a lie.
It's so crazy.
And we used to get prescribed high doses. See, now Accutane's come in the back door again. Now that Spironolactone is the star, Accutane's kind of come in the back door because Spiro doesn't. Spoiler alert, doesn't work for everybody, so they still use Accutane. But now they'll just say to you, you just microdose it, just a little bit, you know.
Microdose.
But it is so damaging that you have to basically sign something to say that you will not get pregnant while you're on it.
Yeah, you have to be on birth
You
control.
have to be on birth control.
Which is a
while you're
whole
on
other
it.
thing.
But the doses that I used to go on were so strong that I can remember waking up in the morning and sometimes my eyes would be glued shut because they were so dry. I'd get nosebleeds from the inside of my nose was so dry. I remember chopping my lips. My lip skin was just coming off in sheets. Get cracks here and be bleeding. It was terrible. So yeah, it shuts down the oil glands. You get kind of forcibly clear, but it obliterates.
Yeah, and I
your
also
barrier.
think that like I've seen people's barrier who have just been on it or whatever, like you can still kind of tell that it's like it's not like you're glowing after, you know what I mean?
No,
It's not like you
no.
just got out of a facial and you have this like glowing, amazing skin that's like super
And that's
balanced and
actually,
everything.
You know, it's never my main point, but it's a really good point that when you get clear with suppressants, your skin's not at its healthiest. It's almost
not,
like
yeah.
it's just being strangled into behaving. But the thing is that those oil glands will start to, you know, fill up again, and especially if you don't deal with the issue. And that's why now they have the laser.
It's almost like then they're backed up, the
Yeah.
oil glands.
But then they, you know, now they have the laser that kind of does the same
Well,
thing.
AviClear is another popular laser, popular acne
It's doing
treatment,
the
and
same
it's basically Accutane. You explained it to me that it's basically Accutane, but like shooting directly in your pore, right?
Well, it's like it's doing this. It's the same idea that it's like it's affecting or it's shrinking the sebaceous glands so that there is no oil flow. The thing is, and I've definitely said this before, and I don't care who I offend. I think that they just keep it like that so that you stay in the cycle because that's where the money is. They don't necessarily want you to have the permanent cure because then you don't
because
have
there
to
always
come
needs
back.
to be a new thing.
Of course.
Yeah, there always needs to be a new treatment, you know, whatever,
I mean,
which is
I
just
hate
so
to
interesting
sound like
because
one of those conspiracy
Yeah.
people, but think about it. Big pharma.
oh,
It is $1 billion. No, but
Yep.
acne is $1 billion
Acne treatment.
industry.
it is. I think it's like, yeah,
Why would you want to educate people and help them heal their skin by themselves without the medication and the topicals? Because that is what's keeping everybody super wealthy.
you said it there, sister. Said
And
a
I mean it.
mouthful.
I mean it. I don't. And
It's
I'm
in-
happy.
yeah.
I'm happy. I understand that if you're in a time and place in your life where that's what you need to do, I'm not taking that away from people. You know.
Well, that's another question that I had is, especially like I know a few people who decide to go on it, whatever. Do you see a world where Accutane actually is the recommended treatment for acne? Like any kind of person?
The only
Like,
thing.
do you think boys are more like,
No, I mean, here's the thing. I believe that there isn't a case that we can't help, but is that person in a place in their life where they're able to do everything that they need to do. It's long and drawn out. There's a financial commitment to what we do too. There's a time commitment. There's a lot of people that just aren't in that headspace, or their cases are so severe that psychologically they just need it to be dealt with. I mean, that's where I suppose like my career as a child protection social worker, like I know how people behave when they're in distress. And I can see it in people's eyes. You know how I talk all the time about energy? I can feel when a person is going to clear their skin when I first ever meet them.
You say that all the time?
Yeah. And I know it too from
like you'll
from
come
my
back
time
to
as a
the
social
you'll come
worker.
back from the treatment room and come to me and be like, she's on her
not
way.
ready, or she's
yeah,
ready.
yeah. It's so interesting.
And a big part of it has nothing to do with their condition, as in their physical condition. It's mental and their
such a
ability.
mental
Like
game,
a lot of us, let's be real. What we do is not free, and it does require a commitment too. I mean, the payoff in the end is that I hope that you don't
it's
need
like
us.
it's an initial investment for a long-term
Exactly.
game.
But
Yeah.
it's a lot. And to ask a person, I know I've been side by side with you through this whole thing, to ask a person to go through this in the prime of their life, when they're dating, when they're, wanting to feel their best, it's a big ask. So there's the right time for Accutane is when a person really sees that as their only option, but I will never be the person that says that.
Yeah, I think it's a similar sentiment to what we were talking about with Diana of like, it's kind of an experiment. Like treat Pacific Touch in your journey. If that's something that's kind of blocking you, it's to think of it as an experiment. I'm going to try this and I'm going to give it my all and see if it works. And I think that those people that are like, I'm going to do everything. Julia Benville is a good example. Just totally called her out, but she
would happily sing from the rooftops.
She is somebody, and she told me of like, similar to me, have done everything other than Accutane and then found you and was like, okay, if this is my option, I'm going to give it a year. Like this is me to give myself a year. I'm really going to like commit to this. And she has the best fucking skin, like ever.
If you want to look her up on Instagram,
at Julia Benville, like seriously,
amazing result.
Yeah,
and we cleared her skin. Like her and I worked together when she was in medical school, wearing a mask, highly sensitive. I mean, that when you think about all the different obstacles, and she is hypersensitive, that she had, and she did it. So you will have to give up on me. I don't care what comes through my door. I so firmly believe in what I do. It's on the other person, but I also respect not everybody is ready. There's a place and a time for it, and it just is what it is.
It's a yin and yang.
Accutane in particular, it's so harsh. You can't even have facial treatments while you're on Accutane.
That's an important point. Yep.
Or we won't see people 6 months. You're technically not supposed to give someone a facial for 6 months post Accutane. That's how much damage it does to your barrier.
Yeah. Crazy.
I don't want that.
No.
For anyone.
Well, for those clients where Accutane or Spironolactone are the commonly recommended treatments, what would be Pacific Touch's alternative course of action?
I mean, I will always, with clients like that, start from scratch. Like we do the detective work. It's like the basics, the homework. The foundation for me is always making sure that a person, first and foremost, like what you're doing 60 times a month is more important than what I'm doing once a month. So I really break down, you do a lot of homework in the beginning, as you know. It's like the skincare, hair care, makeup. Make sure that is all good. And then I'll start to try to help a person identify all the different environmental triggers, because it's not just internal. Sometimes the other mistake too is that people jump straight to the big stuff.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, if I got some, terrible hormonal imbalance or this or that, it's like, no, let's first work out, like, how are you managing, when you're working out, are you using the towels on your face at the gym? Like how much sleep are you getting? Are you managing your blood sugar? Like we get all those basics in place, see how the skin responds, and then we'll refer out. Like we work with Do Nutrition and, like we'll have people look into the internal things if skin doesn't respond to the basic support.
Right.
But there's a lot of, I remember in my acne healing journey, I was never held to task about all the other stuff that I was doing.
Yeah.
My dermatologist didn't ask me about my makeup.
Totally.
If
I think
was
that's
cleaning
why
my makeup
I continue to come
brushes.
back and am a client first before a employee, I guess, at Pacific Touch. Like, I really valued what you offered and really found that like no one else was asking me or thinking of any of these questions. And that's why, you know, I
And
obviously continue to come back.
A little like kind of basic.
Oh my God, trust me. I like seriously, they were almost too basic where I was like, clearly that's not that.
Yeah.
Like,
And
even like with, we were
being
talking
like
last week of like I immediately was like, it has to be a hormone issue. Like my skin, like it has to be something with the hormones. And then even just like scaling it a little bit back was like, oh, there's something happening in the gut. And then even scaling it a little bit back more of like, wiping your face, like going to sweaty workouts or whatever, and not having the tools in your toolkit to like help with that. Or, you know, point of just recognizing that you are a super acne prone person and need to like be very diligent, you know?
Is gold.
Yeah.
And that's that I think is
but you know how
probably
that
the
like
biggest
scales back?
disservice.
It's like you think it's everybody goes to the immediate worst case scenario. And then it's like, oh wait. And trust me, I feel like I'm the living, breathing example of that. Of like, now I'm like, it really is just, I shouldn't have worn that or got that concealer or something like that.
Well, that's the big thing too, that I think that you just touched upon. That's hugely important, is learning that there's a genetic component to being acne prone, that there is no cure. You have a condition. It's very much like having diabetes.
Yep.
You need to learn how to manage. Like, you're not going to be, we have overly dramatic skin. We have to be more careful than the average person. That will be with us for life. But if we learn early on in life how to manage that, we won't go through the roller coaster of craziness.
And you've told me before that your skin just gets stronger. Like when it's responding to something that it's agreeing with, your skin barrier itself just becomes more resilient.
Right? If you strengthen, again, with that whole thing of the inside out approach, it's like you use products that reduce the fire and strengthen the barrier, make it more protective, but you also recognize all the things in your life that tweak your inflammation, like raise your inflammation. And the more things that you can bring down, the more your system is able to like look after everything else. You know, because that's the other thing about skin. Even though it's the largest organ of the body, it's like the least important. It doesn't get all the nutrients. Like when I talk to people about having dehydrated skin, the first thing they'll go to me is like, oh, but I drink a lot of water. It's like, yeah, but that's going to your kidneys and all. It's not a vital organ, you know, so it doesn't get a lot. So if you have a lot of systemic inflammation, your skin's getting nothing.
It's like the last
so bring
thing.
all that down, and that's when you start, your skin gets more love.
Yeah.
You're giving it more love from the outside. It's just a better situation all around.
Yeah. Well, let's get into some topicals, namely Tretinoin. I know that is a hot topic. It's a common one that's prescribed for the acne-prone girls, or again, going into the dermatologist. It's like, let's start with Tretinoin, then let's start with Accutane or whatever the other ones, and then it's Spironolactone and whatever, and it just goes on, and then they find Pacific Touch and, you know, whatever.
The rest is history.
Right. But with Tretinoin specifically, because it is a really popular one, what is it and why is it commonly prescribed for Pacific Touch or acne-prone people?
So it's kind of the same as everything else. It's commonly prescribed because it adheres to that old-fashioned, outdated belief that acne is about oil production. So it is, again, you're going to keep hearing like vitamin A is a biggie, right? Like it's a retinoid. Vitamin A is huge because it affects our skin cell turnover. And one of the things, a trait of an acne prone person is that we have skin cell turnover issues. Sometimes we're producing too many skin cells, and that's like the clogging, and the inside of our follicle is scaly and dry. So to have something that is turning them over faster and resurfacing helps acne. The problem with Tret, there's multiple problems, but the problem I have with tretinoin is that it's very, very harsh. All you need to do is, talking about the gel, look at all of the side effects, dryness, flakiness. These are all not things that you want if you have very inflamed acne, where there's, your barrier is really fragile and you're highly inflamed. The last thing you want to do, it's like gasoline on the fire, is how I look at Tret. The other problem that I have with Tret is that it's very easily abused. And by abused, I mean, that it's either like too strong. I mean, when I have people coming through that are on Tret, they've got like little burns on their faces. Skin is flaking like crazy, highly reactive. They're always the ones that are,
Is that one of those examples that you've said of like people come in and they think that they have rosacea because their skin gets really red, but it's really just, overuse, over product use, I guess.
We'll treat it as rosacea, right? Like whenever I see sensitivity, I'll always respect all the different, like I never question a diagnosis, but often I will see conditions where I see what the person is using, and a lot of it is harsh topicals, and I'm like, this is creating a hypersensitive barrier that looks like rosacea. But let's see. I don't say anything because there's nothing worse. You don't want to challenge other professionals, and there is that kind of, what's the word, a hierarchy in society where a doctor trumps an esthetician. Like that's why I don't even bother getting into conversations on TikTok a lot with, I don't want to argue, because people will often just go, well, what do you know? You're not a doctor. Why are you questioning this? But we have time and time again, so many clients, when they repair their barrier and put all of the support back in, the symptoms go away and they don't have rosacea. But tretinoin, so yeah, very strong retinoid that's just focusing on resurfacing the skin. But as we now know, and this is where it's kind of like the challenge of the old-fashioned idea, acne is an inflammatory condition. So really what you're wanting to do is flood the system with anti-inflammatories, strengthen the barrier, deal with the hormonal sensitivity. And you can bring in, there is a time and place, and I can't believe I'm saying this on air, but and your eyes always go wide. It's almost like I can read you, like, what are you going to say, Nicola?
Yeah.
I don't hate tretinoin. I think there are strong barriers with a really, really great skincare routine that can tolerate it. That skin cell turnover.
Would that be for like the retinoid aspect of it, for kind of like anti-aging vibes?
Yes.
Okay.
Or if you're or say that you're in maintenance and you've just got a few stubborn marks and you're wanting to sort of even stuff out, but your skincare routine has to be super solid. Your skin has to be really, really strong. And I still think there's other great things out there. Like there's great enzymes, there's vitamin A formulations that are better, in my opinion, than Tret. They're gentler. Like the retinol that's in eruption emulsion is a gentler form. Like you're able to put things in to boost skin cell turnover, all of the professional enzymes that we have. And here the other problem from an acne point of view with Tret is when Tret first came out, it was in gel form, way too strong for most people, surprise, surprise, with inflammatory acne. So companies came out with a cream-based formula. The cream-based formula has got a pore clogging ingredient in it. So
the
acne
irony.
specialists that are in the know hate the cream-based version anyway. But who's going to go up against Big Pharma? And it's definitely...
Just continue to educate in your own world and let that, message spread.
Yeah.
Right.
So Tret is... And the other thing too with the tretinoin is because there's not a lot of follow-through or questions asked about what everybody's doing, people aren't often educated enough when they get put on these topicals, all of the things that they shouldn't be doing. Like, I don't want, if you are on something where your barrier is absolutely obliterated and sensitized and is really dry and flaky, I don't want you to be training for marathons. I don't want you to be sweating. I don't want you to be doing heated yoga where you're excessively wiping. I don't want you to be going on sunny vacations. I don't want you to be using P50 toners, you know, all of these different, and so you just get, it's not just the Tret.
It's everything else. That's kind of a common theme I'm seeing throughout this conversation. But it's also
too, Tretinoin is over the promise of what it does is it's not correct for acne. You know, like it's sold to people as the thing. Oh, you just need to go on Tret. No, you need to do a lot more than that.
Yeah, I mean, circling back to the first one when we talked about Spiro, it's kind of a similar of like, just try this pill.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a little bit lazy on the practitioner side of things.
Yeah,
like I just kind of, you know, just handing over a tube and saying, take this, and your acne will disappear without anything else.
It's crazy. Wow, we really like went deep in a lot of those, and I think that there's so many common themes between the big ones with Spiro to Accutane to Tretinoin, and we can, you know, dive even deeper. So if anybody has any more questions or wants more clarifications, or even to, you know, take one of these further, like, let us know. But this was amazing.
I'm always here for the convo because it is a hot topic. I think a lot of people, because it's so commonly, all of the things that we talked about are the thing in acne healing. People get a shock when we don't subscribe to that. But then you just, you know, like when you go on our social media and see the before and afters that are achieved without any of these suppressants.
Yeah, you start to understand.
You understand, it can be done.
Yeah. Well, let's leave our listeners with some sort of tip, lesson, advice on their Acu treatment that is not a Band-Aid, like topicals or prescriptions like we've talked about. Like, what is some tip that you would say to those people that you can have heal your acne but without these Band-Aid approaches?
So what I want people to do is to take a breath and really try to think about what their body, their skin is telling them. If their skin is super inflamed and red and hot and angry and those breakouts, look at places where you need to put the fire out. If you're not red and hot but you're just heavily congested, where are the blockages? Like, what is blocking you? Find the things that you need to do to support your skin, but look at acne as something that is protecting you, like the symptoms of it, but also understand it's the condition you have. Learn about how to manage inflammation. Inflammation is everything. If you take one thing away from our conversation today, every acne-prone person needs to learn how to manage their fire. And some fire is good. You don't want to put the fire out completely. It's just learning how to manage it and identifying the things that you can control. And then for the things you can't control, what support does my skin need rather than fighting it? Like, put down the weapons and stop fighting your skin and put in the love and support, and you will get the skin of your dreams.
I mean, mic drop there. That was amazing. Well, thank you so much, Nick. You really came with the answers to all the questions,
because I think it's a big topic.
It's a huge topic, and you really came through for us. So thank you so much. This is amazing. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you have any questions, again, just please write us a message, DM at Skin Talk Tuesday on Instagram, or it actually is at Skin Talk Tuesday Podcast. I think that's what it is. Or obviously Pacific Touch NYC. And we'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.